Okay. Hi, Miss Wolf.
Hi, Miss Shillingburg.
Thanks for joining me today.
Thank
All
you.
right. So we're looking at the CSTPs, and do you have two or three that you would like me to look at during our observation? Have you looked at any that are tied to national boards since you're doing that work?
I haven't
Okay.
started looking at it all yet.
Okay.
I'm sure it's connected.
No problem.
Sorry. Okay, can I describe the lesson and then can we maybe look and
Yes.
see what
Yes.
what works as a good focus?
Sure. Okay.
All right. So the lesson will be an introduction and beginning practice with making connections strategy. So students, we start the class with silent reading, but then and a conversation protocol about what they've read, and then after that, I'll go over the agenda and objectives, and then I will introduce the idea of making connections, and that there's three connection types: text to self, text to world, and text to text. And then I will show three short video clips for each. So text to self, I haven't picked the video. Well, thinking of doing one that's in a middle school, like just a quick video. Then text to text, maybe like a fairy tale, like a new version of a fairy tale. And then text to world, something that's relatable in the news, either like with weather or forest fires or something that they can connect to. So after practice, and then they'll do that on an anchor chart or on a graphic organizer. And then after practicing with the videos, I will model with a short story, and then they'll finish reading the short story and do more connections on their own.
Sounds good.
Yes. So perhaps, I don't know, the sequence of lessons could be one.
Have you thought about, for the text to world, the above the noise videos? Because there's one on fires, fighting good fires with bad ones, fighting bad fires with good ones.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, there's a good one there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so understanding, I don't think it's also recommended for student learning. That could be something in there, maybe standard 3.
Okay. Is there a sub number there? 3 point something?
3.2.
Okay.
And then another one?
Just one more.
I think an area for me that I need to work on more is like formative assessments.
Okay.
So maybe something in standard 5.
Is that 5? Let's see, which one is that?
Maybe 5.4. Using assessment data to establish learning goals and plan, differentiate, and modify.
Excellent. Okay. So you've already gone over the instructional components. I did have a couple of other questions, just sort of give me some background information. So since this is a new course for you, can you briefly describe this new learning environment and how it's different from your last classroom or the other courses that you taught previously?
So a huge difference is it's a lot smaller of a class, which changes sort of the way that can interact and teach with students. There's not necessarily, like, I've planned a lot of things for group work and then realized that all of my students will just be in partners, so it's like not necessarily group centric. But anyway, the physical space is a lot different as well. There's fewer tables, a lot more book space, and everything is reading focused, so there's not other things on the walls that are not connected to reading or procedures of the classroom. And I think that's been a big shift for me as well, coming in here and having a smaller class. It's a lot easier to or it feels a lot more manageable to set up and practice really clear routines, because I'm able to check in with each student and see the work that they're doing really quickly. I also can give more individualized feedback.
That's great.
It takes a lot less time because there's fewer kids.
Do you find yourself using the same kinds of strategies that you did before in ELA, or are these more new because they're geared towards a different level of reader?
in terms of teaching strategies.
Mhm.
I think, well, I taught ELD for a long time as well. I think they're similar, but I think as compared to ELA, I think we're moving slower and going more in depth with the strategies rather than kind of briefly introducing and then just practicing regularly. There's a lot more time, or like the gradual release of responsibility takes longer than it did when it was just ELA.
But there's more practice involved.
Exactly,
so
yeah.
It's a trade-off almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. Let's see, what else? Do you have any learning goals for the lesson that I'm going to observe next week?
So my goal is that I haven't written it in the pretty way yet.
It's okay.
But I want students to show through watching the videos that they can at least differentiate between the 3 different types of connections, like that they know what that difference is, and then that they can transfer that skill to a written text. Because I find a lot of the time, I guess I want to see where they're at when it comes to doing it with a written text, because it's for some kids a lot harder than it is with a video. So I want them to complete the work in a way that shows me what they're able to do, so I know who I need to like check in with individually.
That's good. You mentioned partner work a minute ago. So will you have them share their connections that they discovered with each other?
Yeah, and I was debating potentially having them work with the partner to write the connections, but I don't know what that would look like yet. So that they're not just doing it on their own.
And that's something you could do either before or after, just either to reteach or previous to just kind of assess where they're at.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let's see. Is there 1 or 2 activities that, you mentioned they're going to watch the videos and they're going to make the connection. Is there any, oopsies. It's not an earthquake. It's just the library talking.
Yeah.
Are there any other activities that you're thinking of having them do to really solidify this idea of making connections?
Not necessarily in this class period. We're going to keep working at it. So I'm having them on the Wednesday short period. They're going to do independent reading the whole time and do making connections in their independent reading book. And then on Friday, or on another block day, I'm planning, I think, to do a read aloud with them, like start reading a book out loud and have them make connections with the book.
Before we started talking about your this pre-observation and what will happen next week in the observation, just making it, I was wondering about when you're talking about the book that you mentioned, Concrete Rose, maybe modeling for them, making connections with another teacher, and videotaping that so that they could watch that, and then they'll probably be more engaged because it's their teacher doing it.
Yeah.
So that's one option.
It'd be a great way to model the group, like partner talk. Making connections,
yeah. And I'm available right down the hall.
Yes.
What embedded supports do you have for ELs and students with identified learning needs?
So I don't actually have any in this class because it's specifically for students who are not ELs or have specified learning needs. So
you still have scaffolding though.
But I have the scaffolding is, there's a graphic organizer that has sentence starters on it. We use pictures as a connector, right? Or a image to represent the skill that they're doing, the strategy they're using.
Which is used for ELs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then doing it with the videos versus the text, modeling. They have roles like norms for partner talk, using a timer, posting things versus.
Sorry.
It's okay. Having things written in slides and then also giving oral directions.
Nice. So for the observation, when we actually do it, would you prefer that I come at the beginning of the period or the end, since there's such long periods this year?
We usually read and they buzz and talk to each other for about the first 30 minutes, so anytime after that.
Okay. So we'll do the second half then?
Yeah.
Okay. And anything else, any other information you'd like me to know prior to the observation? about the class or the students,
No.
how they've been progressing so far?
They're 6th graders, so they're pretty sweet. They're a little fidgety, of course, but they're participating and engaged in what we're doing. So.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So can we look at the standard again? The first one was 3.2, right? So apply knowledge of student development and proficiencies to ensure student understanding of subject matter. So you discussed how you're going to do that and the strategies you're going to use. And then 5.4 is
assessment. Using assessment data to establish learning goals and to plan, differentiate, and modify instruction.
So what assessment data are you planning to use?
So going into this lesson, I haven't. So I guess this first day will be kind of my initial assessment with it. I'm assuming based on them being in the class that there's a good chance that they struggle with this strategy, but not necessarily. So I will use, everything will be written down. So with the videos, they'll write it, and then they'll write with the text as well. So I think my plan after will be to read over their journal writing, and then either on Wednesday when they're reading, probably Wednesday when they're reading, if there are people who need reteaching, I'll pull a small group aside. And then I also, on Fridays, do conferences with all the students.
Good.
For just 2 minutes, but just check in with them then and kind of give feedback orally as well as writing it in their notebook.
So that's good, because after the observation, then I'd like to give it about a week before we come back together and go over the form and talk about what I saw. So it'd be great if we can look at those, if they're journals together.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can frame it with the 2 standards that we're looking at. And we'll just talk about what you saw. And maybe if there's anything that I can do to help you, model the text to text, because I love books so much. Or text, whatever the connections are. Okay. So I'll see you next Friday.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks for your time.